Good afternoon, everybody. Please take your seat. Thank you very much for joining us for what is your last session of the day today, looking at measuring the impact of the family business ecosystem. My name is Alexis Duroy. I am the CEO of the Family Business Network, which is the world-leading family business organization. And I'm privileged to be here on stage today with 5 of our distinguished members that I will introduce to you later, who are going to share with you the opportunities they see with their businesses, with their families, how they're building bridges between their family and their business, between their family business and society, and between families together. So we have today with us Alfonso Libano Dorella, on your left, on my right. Alfonso comes from a family that has been in business since the 19th century. He's the vice chairman of Cobega, which is a family holding investment company, active in what we call the Coca-Cola ecosystem. So when we think sustainability in Coca-Cola, we are at the heart of the matter. He's been very active in our network as a member of the board, and he chairs our sustainability community. We have André Hoffmann with us, who I think here in Geneva doesn't need a lot of introduction, but as vice chair of Roche, André is an ambassador, a change maker, active at FBN, but also at the WEF here at Building Bridges, and also at INSEAD. Benjamin Firmenich, we have an ex-gen on stage from the Firmenich family here, who started here in Geneva as an industrial family, who's been in the news lately with a lot of changes. But Benjamin started an impact investment fund more than 10 years ago, which has invested more than 300 million Swiss franc in various projects, and he's going to talk to us about impact investing, because we know it's a buzzword, but he's been doing it for more than a decade, all around the world and also with other families. So welcome, Benjamin. Maria Ahlström Bondestam is joining from Finland, also a family business which started in the mid-19th century. She's co-founder and honorary chair of the Eva Ahlström Foundation, which is the main philanthropy arm of your family. And she founded it with 25 female cousins. So we have more than one. So we actually have 25 women on stage with her today. And she's very active at UNICEF as an ambassador of UNICEF, and she's going to talk about how philanthropy impacts not only communities and people, but also her family, her business, and how she has brought other families in that project. And last but not least, Farhad Forbes, who is the chairman of the Family Business Network, has been one of the co-founders of our Indian chapter. Forbes Marshall is an industrial group of companies based in Pune in India. And Farhad, one of the leading companies in the field of steam engineering and energy conservation, also an important topic today. And Farhad and his family have embarked on a great business transformation and are very active both in philanthropy and advocacy. And we'll learn from Farhad because, we have a very European panel, but we're bringing the largest country in the world here on stage as well. So thank you, Farhad, for coming all the way from India. So we're first going to try to imagine and dream how business families can work on systemic change and how we can start measuring their impact. Because as you know, business families have been hidden for centuries, for generations. Some would say happy and hidden. Well, as we know, in family business, it's not always that happy, but at least hidden. And we're working hard to make them more transparent and more public. We'll say a few words about a recent partnership that FBN has worked on together with Intent, which is one of the great projects that André has built to convene people together, to move from just talking and learning to really acting together. And so André and Alfonso will tell us a little bit about the partnership. And finally, before we have a conversation and we hopefully open for a few questions from the audience, we're going to hear from so the three cases here, the three families, who are going to explain to us two things. One, how they're working on what we call those 4 drivers of change: business transformation, philanthropy, investment, and advocacy, within their family business, but also with other families. Let's imagine if we were all, and I know there are many business families here from Turkey, from Finland, from Switzerland, that I can recognize members of FBN in the room, if we were all committing to sustainable growth. We represent, as business families, 60% of the global workforce and 70% of the global GDP. Now, we're very diverse, but there's one thing we have in common, is this obsession of legacy. That means we think in generations, not in quarter. So if we were to translate this obsession of legacy into our daily work, that could lead to something quite impressive. And that's why we believe at FBN that we are uniquely positioned to lead on the SDGs. Now, we know, there's a lot of talk, and André, you were in New York a few weeks ago, hearing about where we stand on the SDGs, and, there's some room for discussion. Some of us might think we can be depressed, but look, we think in generations, not in quarter. We have this obsession of the legacy, and so we're not going to be discouraged because there's a bump on the road. And that's why at FBN, some years ago, as having been a private network for a very long time, we decided to literally come out of the closet and become more transparent, because we believe that as we represent such a big portion of the economy, we needed to become more open and more transparent about the work we do. And who is best placed as the UN? We know the more we talk about the UN, the more we question the UN, but we know it's still this place where everybody can come and speak, and speak openly and transparently. And so we have this partnership with the UN, which we believed would be a great driver for our community to be more transparent. Why? We're not more perfect than others. We have our issues, business families, as you know. But with this obsession of legacy and this set of values, we think we can make a difference. Now, we've done it at home, we've done it hidden and happy, with our communities, with our businesses, but we live in a world of transparency. And so for us as FBN, the first thing we thought was important to do was to pledge and to commit to be global responsible citizens, but not only to pledge it, but to start to measure, track progress, and report transparently, which for business families is a revolution. As you know, being private allows you to do a certain number of good things, sometimes less good things, but you can take the high road and the long-term view. Now, becoming more transparent, and we're going to have to do it anyway because the world is transparent, our new generations are much more transparent, and we're going to have to report. So why don't we, we believe we are doing the right thing, why don't we start to really be on that road? So for us at FBN, the first idea was to do the pledge. And by the way, we had the same pledge 12 years ago, exactly the same words. But we were not committing to be transparent. Now, this is a commitment that we have. It's going to take a generation, but we have started our journey. Secondly, how do you report? Now, we know in the room, and many of you have been to various sessions today on different reporting tools and mechanisms. I know you also, Benjamin, you've started an initiative in measuring impact. Now, everybody has to find its own tool. We have our own that we put together with you. And I think what's interesting in this one, and it's a platform which is free, anonymous for any business family to report on, is that it tries to capture the impact of business families beyond their business. It looks at philanthropy, it looks at investment, and it looks also at advocacy. And we really want to bring our families on that journey. And that journey really is what we would like to look at in the concept of what some people call total family wealth or total family capital. There are those 4 drivers of change that we need to look at comprehensively, which include business and business transformation, impact investing, philanthropy, and advocacy. And we know that today, our 8,000 next-gens that are in the network, they want some coherence between those 4 drivers of change. They don't want, and I'm going to be very extreme, they don't want the very profitable industrial conglomerate that happens to pollute a river from time to time, and then the beautiful Family Philanthropy Foundation cleaning up the river. Huh? They want coherence. And we are going to work, and we want to work harder to make sure that we bring that coherence around those 4 drivers of change. Now, it's not easy, because in some families, you have just a group of siblings, a father, a mother, and a few children. In others, like the Alstrom family, the Firmenich family, I think your family, Alfonso, you have dozens, hundreds of cousins. Now, it's a great talent pool, but it also can be quite complicated to align. But once you align, you get into really some great collective action. Now I'm going to pass on the word now to André and then to Alfonso. You can pick up your mic and tell us a little bit why we came together on this partnership and what we're trying to achieve here.
Well, thank you very much, first of all, to FBN to have invited us. And let me give you in 2 words about what intent actually is. You can see our logos are all over the slides you have seen. Intent is an idea between my wife, Rosalie, who's sitting here, and I. And the idea was to sort of bring together the agenda you've just very, very eloquently described, and to try to use the nature of family businesses to provide solutions to the problems that we are facing in an intergenerational basis. Who better than families can understand what it means to pass on to the next generation? A normal CEO works for the next quarter, and if he's lucky, he has a 6-year career. Companies which are in family ownership have an inborn advantage in the fact that they are thinking long term. And the purpose of today, the purpose of the whole Building Bridge conference is about this. It's about substituting the long term to the short term. So I buy completely in this vision you've just expressed. We need to be able to do things together. Now, where I'm not so sure that we can completely align is this notion of philanthropy. Philanthropy is something which I feel very strongly about. It is about giving money to support projects, to initiate projects which do not exist before, but it is not a solution. It's a temporary measure. And so the idea of uniting a group by doing philanthropy is probably a good idea because it allows you to share values, but don't think that you've solved the issue by doing supporting projects. What you really, sorry, I'm going to phrase that differently. It's not how you spend the money that matters. It's how you make it. And the benefit of a family owner is that we can think in the long term so that we can make sure that there is no need for philanthropy to come and repair the mistakes done. You just heard about the polluted river. That's an example. I mean, I would talk about the cut forest as well, but I would also talk about disrupted lives and inequalities. If we really want to create the ultimate North Star that we should all follow, which is the putting in place of a sustainable, inclusive prosperity, we're going to need more than philanthropy. We're going to need business models which are sustainable and which are going to allow us to get to that. And so, nice to be able to compare notes, nice to be able to meet, nice to be able to bring together all these different thoughts. And I'm convinced that if we all go out of our little corner and speak to each other and try to jointly reach a conclusion, we're going to make much more solid decisions. Building bridges is about this. It's about merging 2 worlds, the world of finance and the world of nature. We're very lucky to have some outstanding participants here, and this is the right positioning for FPN and for the new FPN and Intent partnership. So thank you very much. And I think maybe Alfonso on the FBN side wants to tell us if that is a good idea or not.
I think, really, André, that is a very good idea. But first of all, I have to say that it was not easy to find a tool that could use all the family businesses of the world, any size, any culture, in order to measure and to give data and have it a reliable data and a reliable measurement. So we tried very selected ways of doing it till we found a way to do it that is for free, that anybody could use. Could use a taxi driver with 2 or 3 taxis, or supermarket, or a big corporation. Anybody could measure sustainability with the platform that we have now. And this is something that is very important. We know that family business look for the long term, but sometimes in a family business, between the family, they don't build the right bridges in order to give the preference and the priority sustainability. So we have to give them the tool that is easy for them to start working on the progress of improvement on sustainability standards. About bridges, I want to thank Andrea for building this bridge to us and give us the opportunity to improve the knowledge and improve the capabilities of family businesses. Most of the decisions you make in a family business is because you are not aware, because you don't know. For example, we made in our company, which is not small, I'm talking a company of 40,000 employees, we made many, many mistakes. Why? Because we didn't learn, we didn't listen, we didn't know from others that were doing better than us. I think intent to have it at home with us is very, very good because it will give us a lot of quality in the decisions we make about sustainability priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfonso, and thank you, André. It's really about driving systemic change.
I see on the watch that we still have 2 minutes left on our allocated slot. Maybe I can use the opportunity to talk a bit more. I think what we really should be saying is that we are using the family business network as a platform, but what we really are talking about is changing business. It's changing the way we produce the value that we spend. And I think it's extremely important that we realize that this is not just limited to people who think long term, it's a survival issue. You hear a lot of things here today. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, we can't really afford to make business in a new way because you need to be profitable and you need to talk about energy security and all these things. But the reality is that we are in the last straight. We are really, the last straight line. We are going to go directly into the wall if we don't change the way we make business. And this is an attempt at trying to convey that. So don't believe, they are family business, they can talk differently. It concerns us all. It concerns us all, and each one of us has to make its little piece to go towards the sustainable, inclusive prosperity. Because if we don't get there, the journey of the human on the planet is going to become much more difficult than we have it until now. So I just didn't want to...
Thank you. No, thank you for that wake-up call, because we've crossed the border. We know the planet borders and the boundaries, and we've crossed them already. And I think it's about how we make sure that we come back and change. And it's not about selling the business to let somebody else, transform it. It's about transforming business. And at FBN next year, we'll celebrate the 10th anniversary of our sustainability initiative, which we've started internally. We only came out of the closet a few years ago because we felt we were not ready. And we didn't start talking about philanthropy, or we started talking about business transformation. Anyway, we're going to be a bit challenging you, because our first speaker is Maria, and she has used philanthropy as a driver to align her entire family, dozens, hundreds of cousins, and then she's used it as a tool to bring other families around the table. And I think that's probably one of the most important aspects. So, we'll share your notes, because there's a famous Harvard Business School case called Beyond Philanthropy, I believe, which is about what you were saying. Maria, tell us about Alström, the Eva Alström Foundation, and your passion about philanthropy, and how you're using that both within your family business ecosystem, within your community, and with other families.
Okay, thank you. So, hello, my name is Maria, and I belong to the Finnish Alström family. We're a big family. We're 450 members in 7 generations. And the family dates back to 1851. And it all really started, my great-great-grandparents who started the company, Eva and Antti Alström, they very much believed that only by investing in the societies that they had businesses in could their business prosper. And in the 1850s in Finland, that translated into investing in education and investing in healthcare. Finland was very poor at that time. And with time, the state took over these, schools and libraries, hospitals, and so on that they had been investing in. And so this was a mantra that we heard growing up. It's in English, growing up. And so fast forward 150 years, the company is thinking about investing in the global south. The family has grown. We are now about maybe 400 members. And there was a lot of discussions within the family that, should we do this or not? And honestly, the family was also divided in this, really thinking, should we continue as a family? Do we have the same vision for the future? And that's more or less the same time when the women in the family, we asked ourselves, why are we investing in the Global South? What is the benefit? And it was, of course, lower cost of production, lower wages, and all that. And that's when the women started saying that, hey, haven't we heard this growing up? That only by investing in the societies where you have businesses can your business prosper. So we took this to the men. We are quite a patriarchal family still at that time, and said, you know, should we invest in, for example, India or Brazil or China? No, maybe not a good idea. And that's when the women said that, hey, the women in the 5th generation, let's start a foundation. Let's start investing in the countries where we operate. And that's how the Eva Ahlström Foundation was born, that carries the name of our great-great-grandmother. And at this time, we had just opened a factory in India, in Gujarat. And we persuaded one of our biggest companies to give us a contribution of 200,000 euros. And with that, actually, before we had that, we identified UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund, as our main partner, because we realized that even if we had the drive and we wanted to do good and we wanted to contribute to the world because we knew it was right, we realized that we didn't know how to do it. We didn't have the expertise or the mandate to do big things, to achieve systemic change, for example. So we identified UNICEF as our main partner because they have the mandate, the UN mandate, to oversee that the governments globally see to children's rights. And together we funded a WASH project in India. And I'm telling you this example because we invested 200,000 euros that was supposed to reach 40,000 children in a water sanitation hygiene project. 200,000 reaching 40,000 children. But during 2 years, the investment ended up reaching 10 million children when the Indian local government decided to invest $102 million into scaling up the results of the project. And that's a return on investment. You invest 200 and you get 102 million. And we were like, wow, is this possible? Can we? Because we were newcomers, we didn't really know what we were doing. And can we really do this? And this filled us with so much hope that, hey, maybe there is a solution. Maybe we can have an impact somehow. So we go back to Finland after visiting the project and thinking that, hey, we want to do more. We want to do more, but we didn't have the money. So we contacted other business families. And through that, then started collaborations, first with 3 families, then with 5 families, then with 42 business families in Finland, always collaborating with UNICEF in different areas, for example, during the Syrian crisis. And why did these families join us? The point was that, sure, everyone wanted to do good. We all want to be associated with something good. I think it's in our nature. And I believe in the good of humanity, that you want to be associated with something good. But the other thing was that the families could see, the other Finnish business families could see the extra benefit that it gave our family. Because we, as a family, became closer. Remember that we were quite divided. Suddenly, we were uniting around common values, something that was not business. Because with a big family like ours, not everyone's that interested in the business. And not everyone, of course, sits on a board or is operational. So all the other cousins and relatives that didn't really have a connection to the business, and really for many generations already have been like, I get my dividend, but I don't really know what do we do. But now suddenly the values and the mission and the purpose got us all together and inspired other families to come on board. So we did this, very happy. And then fast forward again, 2015. The United Nations adopted the Sustainable Development Goals and called on governments, on the private sector, on civil society to step up and tackle the global challenges that faced humanity. And we started thinking, what can we do? What can we do? Because these global goals, they might sound intangible and incomprehensible for some people, but the only way, I believe, to make these global goals a reality is to make them local. You need to give people a possibility to contribute, to be part of the change. Like some of you alluded to, this is not something that 1 or 2 or 3 companies can solve. It is up to all of us. And I believe that people want to be part of this change, but we have to make possibilities for people to contribute. So what we did was we looked at what do we have in our network, in the Alstom network. And we have 11 companies, 3 foundations, 20,000 employees, 450 family members. Could we do something with this? And we decided, you can put the slide, please. And we decided that let's form a collaboration, make it possible for everyone in the network to contribute to the realization of the SDGs in partnership with UNICEF. And you might ask that why UNICEF? All SDGs in one way or another, either directly or indirectly, affect children, our children. So we all agreed, even though we have, our companies are public and they are private, they are different sizes in different sectors, but everyone could agree that children were important. And we also chose the SDG 4 and 5 and 17 as our main SDGs, which also resonated back to the founders of the company who believed in education, in gender equality, in health, and so on. So what we do is we all pool all our resources. And I'm not talking only money. It's skill, it's time, it's an expertise, whatever. Whatever you have. And we're trying to give all 20,000 employees the possibility through different engagement possibilities that we have throughout the year. Give them the possibility to engage and to contribute. But before they even want really contribute, they need to understand, what rights children have and why and how their realization affects our businesses, our societies, and our joint future. So we started the first year, we only did advocacy. And it's not just our employees, it's regarding our family as well. So a lot of advocacy, information work, and so on children's rights, and the possibilities to engage. And what we see is that the 3 sectors where we see results is the impact for children, and that's really, we've outsourced it to UNICEF. UNICEF takes care of that with their expertise and their work. So they use whatever money and time and skill that we have, they do the work. But we see that there's an impact on our business, and it's especially in the attracting and retaining top talent. People today, especially the younger generation, they want to work for something with a purpose. And if you're just doing a mandate ordinary job in a factory, for example, if you can get the extra purpose that I'm working for a company that really contributes to SDG and lets me be part of it, lets me be a partner of UNICEF, it's an added value. And so this is a collaboration that really aimed at the cleaning lady somewhere somewhere and the CEO somewhere else, that we all, and the owners, we all collaborate around this. And it gives a bigger sense of unity, that we are so much stronger together than separately. We get leverage together than separately. So for me, the reflection is that, you know, back to my great-great-grandparents and their work, that only by investing in and innovating around sustainability and equality can we create lucrative businesses and sustainable business model for our societies. So maybe I haven't checked the time, but maybe I end with that.
Thank you very much. A round of applause. I mean, yes, philanthropy is not the end of it, but it's about passion. You're passionate also. I mean, you question philanthropy as a great philanthropist. But what we hear here is passion, family alignment, convening 20,000 employees, 450 family members, 11 companies, then UNICEF. I mean, leveraging what, you know, some of our great global organizations are doing. And then bringing 42 families with you in Finland. I mean, that's something. And yes, go ahead.
No, I want to say to that, so it's not, I agree with you that if the best would be if we don't need philanthropy. We do business, we're all the best version of ourselves, we behave, you know, in a nice, honest, empathic way towards each other. That would be absolutely the best. So what I hope is that people would be inspired to be the best version of themselves and be good leaders and good whatever middle management person you are. And you know, understand that it's really about me. What can I do? And then it would rub off.
Can I just quickly add something? I mean, when I say philanthropy is not a solution, I'm certainly not talking about this sort of project where you do two very important things. You unite people, and that's crucial, but you are also creating the framework condition for your business to be successful. You are actually doing business as a force for good, which I would say is better for me than just philanthropy. I mean, the ideal where we have companies doing no harm is a thing of the past. We need companies doing good. We need companies regenerate. And I think that's a wonderful example. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you. You were talking about India. We're going to move to the largest country on Earth today in terms of number of people with Farhad. And let's move to an industrial business. Let's move to a business that is employing also thousands of people, that at its heart has energy conservation. And Farhad, please share with us what, you know, how you're transforming your business, and also talk a little bit about the social compact and what you are doing with several families to look at, you know, we all heard about the 150 million migrant workers in India during COVID, and what you're doing now to look into that is fabulous. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So firstly, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, firstly, let me just say that we come from a small family. We are second generation, third generation actually. I'm second generation, and now our children are in the business. So we're relatively small. We're about 6 members of the family today. But the business has been in existence for over 75 years now. And as Alexi mentioned, we essentially help customers, which are process industries, and process industries make things that we use. So whether it's the chairs we sit on, the clothes we wear, the cars we drive, you know, all of that. And what we do is actually provide products and services to help industries produce those products as efficiently as possible with the minimum amount of energy usage and the minimum amount of resource that you use. So whether it's clothes, textiles, whether it's paper production, whether it's pharmaceuticals, chemicals, whatever, is how do you optimize things such that you use the minimum amount of energy to produce what you're in business, what the customer is in business to do. When we started, Alex, can I have the first slide? Yeah. So when we started the whole Polaris project in FBN 10 years ago, we started thinking about how does sustainability relate to a family business and any family business through the network. And we said, well, we must start first by looking at how it would impact our own business, looking at it from a very practical angle, how would it impact our business? And then a few years later, when we had the partnership with United Nations, with UNCTAD, we came up with the pledge, which Alexi put up, and this was actually during the pandemic that actually the pledge was, this version of the pledge was actually formed. And we said, how do we look at, everyone talks about ESG, how do we look at environment, social, and governance in our own ecosystem as Forbes Marshall? And when we looked at it, we said, well, the first thing we need to think about as a business is governance. Because if you don't look at governance, and in a family business, you have to look at governance not just from corporate governance, that means the governance that applies to companies, which would be any company, whether family or non-family, but in family business, you have to also look at governance of the family. Because if you don't address that adequately, usually what you hear is you have conflicts in families and family relations break down, but in the process, it destroys the business as well. And in destroying the business, then you're impacting not just the family, but you're impacting thousands of people sometimes, all your employees, the whole ecosystem that the business supports. So we have to think much more seriously and much more responsibly about governance in family business. So making sure that you have a viable operating business such that you can then do good business, do the right things in business, but also for society as well. Then looking at the social aspect of things, and we'll talk more about it. I'll talk more about it when I talk about the social compact, but it's essentially looking at not just employment practice within your organization, but also in your ecosystem around. So it's what you do for your workforce, but it's also what you do for the community in which you operate. And Maria, you spoke very eloquently about what you do in countries where you're operating. For example, you gave the example of India. And this is true for any family business. You may be operating in multiple countries. What are the right social issues to consider in those regions where you operate? And then finally, of course, all of this, how can you do it in a most environmentally sustainable manner so that you can get a holistic perspective on ESG? Can we go to the next slide, please? So again, the way we sort of broke it up, we said, look at all our constituents that we would have in our ESG framework. And this is just for our own organization. I'll talk a little bit about FBN more generally later. So the environment, looking at how do you minimize your footprint on energy, water, and waste. That's internally. In the workplace, what do you do in terms of making sure that you provide fairness in the workplace, all the aspects of what you need to do for employee diversity, etc. For the community, I spoke a little bit about it. But then also in the ecosystem, you have suppliers. And especially in a developing country, your supplier base is actually at a much, much lower level than most of the more organized companies. And that's where you can make a very serious and significant impact, because you have multiple small companies which do not have good work practices, do not have good skills. So that's where you can really make an impact as well. And then, of course, for the customer, in our business, because we help our customers save energy, because we started measuring things through the focus on the family business sustainable development indicators, we started realizing that we were doing this for 75 years, but what was the actual impact we were having? And it turned out to be quite significant. We help our customers on an average save about 6% of their fuel bill. That 6% of the fuel bill, when we added it up and we actually calculated it over a period of 5 years, comes to about 10 million tons of carbon reduction. So that's the impact. And we only started realizing this when we started measuring. So it actually was quite a significant revelation to us. Next, can I go to the next slide? So we started this because of the partnership with the UN in 2020. So the first thing we did was actually just establishing the baseline for where we were on the various parameters. Then the next year, the list is quite significant. So we said, let's prioritize those areas which are most material for our business. So that was what we then prioritized. And then we said, let's put a group together of people to work on this, on the different aspects of the areas which we had prioritized. And then today we're at a stage where we're actually now monitoring. We're actually now measuring how much is actually being benefited. And also it's identifying the areas where we have not made adequate progress on. So that's as much of a revelation as knowing the good things which are happening. Can we go to the next? Coming to the S part of the ESG. In a developing country, this becomes a very significant element. Many of you would have seen images in the pandemic when India locked down in March of 2020, where all business was shut down. And we then realized that we have a huge informal workforce. And that informal workforce is people like security guards in your industrial organizations. They are your domestic staff. They are your people who work in housekeeping and support staff. And when restaurants closed, when hotels closed, a lot of these people were literally on the street. And they come from remote rural areas. And there were 200 million of them who were without any form of employment. They are all daily wage workers. And this is something we have all recognized that has existed. But in an economy which is growing and constantly growing, everyone's employed, even though they're daily wage workers. But when suddenly things stop, you realize how severely this segment of the population gets impacted. So whereas in our companies, we would pay everybody, even if you're not working, you're not invoicing, you're not collecting cash, you can still afford to pay people. But these poor people get nothing. And that's what then brought a few of us together. A few of us companies got together, And working with an NGO partner, a non-government organization partner called DASRA, we sort of formulated a project to think about how we could protect informal workers. And so that's how the social compact was actually born. And today we have now a number of companies which are signed up to this. And what it involves is it involves the industry. And the industry is not just the large organized industry, but it's the whole supply chain. And it's those smaller companies in the vendor base that you really work with, because they are the ones who employ these informal workers. And putting in place, could we go to the next slide, please? There were 6 things we identified. There was wages, and looking at not just a minimum wage, but a living wage, and there's a difference between the two. So ensuring that we would get our vendors to ensure that they would pay a reasonably good living wage. The second, looking at health, making sure that people were registered through government programs, which exist in a country like India as well, for less affluent workers. Third, access to entitlements. Even in a country like India, you do have many government schemes, but these government schemes are pretty complicated. They are not often known how people don't exactly know how to access them. And so providing a process for helping people take advantage of the entitlements which are available. Then next is gender. There is an issue in terms of gender equality in a country like India. So ensuring that there are adequate restrooms for women in companies, that there are that the wages that women earn are equivalent to what a similar wage which would be paid to a man.
Farhad, we have the same issue in Europe about equal pay. So,
but maybe it's more acute.
It's more acute.
It's more acute. So, and then of course looking at things like safety, and then in terms of skilling, because how do you actually ensure that you skill your workers such that they can actually then uplift themselves? We go to the next slide. So this is actually the journey for the social compact. It just shows you like the timelines. Again, 2020 is when we started this whole project, and then going to where it is today. Next, please. Yes. How do you get your vendors to sort of buy into this? And that is where the last part which I said of the social compact was future of work. How do you actually improve things such that people are motivated? And this is just to give you one of our vendors. This is one of our own company vendors, where we would go in and we would say, well, listen, we get you to work on all these things for your employees, for your informal workers, but how can we actually help you also in your business? So this becomes an attractive thing to consider for you. And that's where we started working with them in terms of improving their own housekeeping. So if you see where we started in November 2022, it was a total mess. And you see where it has now progressed to. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And so as a consequence, by doing this, you're helping your vendor also improve their general level of productivity, and also be in a position to also pay your workers better. And the last part of this whole thing is we have a shared value project, where this is something where we had to, as a company, provide equipment to customers you need to maintain those pieces of equipment. So whether it's emission monitoring equipment or whether it's instrumentation or whatever in an industrial plant. And if we do not have people to be able to support them, then we're not in a position to support the customer adequately. And we have millions of people, graduates, who come from very poor backgrounds, who do not have employment. So what we did is actually we started looking for a few of these people from rural areas and training them to maintain, to provide service to our customers. And we actually had some of our retired managers who, after they retired, would employ these young engineers. We would train them in our factory, and then they would actually provide the service to the customer. So in the process, we as an organization benefited. People who were otherwise going to be unemployed, and these were graduates who would be unemployed, got employment, and it provided a nice retirement profession for managers who had retired but still had the ability to contribute. So this was a true shared value benefit which was there. And we now have about 600 of these engineers now who have been trained over the last 3 years.
Thank you, Farhad. I think it's a very concrete example of business transformation across the supply chain, and we know how hard it is to go, across that supply chain in a country where, there are those acute social issues, and you have now gathered a few dozen families to join you on that social compact, with the ambition of impact not only a few 100,000, but up to 200 million migrant workers, which is half of the size of Europe. So thank you for sharing that. It's this combination of business transformation and advocacy by convening many other families. Now let's switch gears with Benjamin, coming from take us back 10, 15 years ago as a next gen of an industrial family, surrounded by 50 family members, passionate about impact, and then you decided to go your own way.
Thank you, Alexi. Thank you for having me here. First thing, you label me as a next gen. In my definition, I think here Andre is also a next gen, right? Because they are and Maria also, and Farhad, I believe also, right? You have the founders, and then the ones after are the next gens, in my vocabulary. So I'm not the only next gen.
One day a next gen, always a next gen, yeah.
and also a now gen, also it's over 40 now you're in your network. You're yes. Now gen, but next gen on now gen, and you remain.
Well, the way we define the difference between next gen and now gen, and next gen you can fail and learn from failure. Now gen, it's harder when you fail because you impact more people and you have more responsibility. Anyway, take us back to those days where you were a next gen, and,
when I was
and you were ready to fail and learn from it.
Yeah. Second thing, you said we're a European panel. Well, Farhad was the exception, but I think. As Impact Finance, I say always we are more a Colombian company than a Swiss one, because we are 16 people. And from those 16 people, 11 are based in Cali, Colombia. And the 10 of them are from Cali. And then the one is a Swiss guy, is my business partner, Cedric, but he's tropicalized, as we say. So we're a Colombian company, and we invest in Latin America. And that's what we wanted to do from the beginning, 12 years ago. And yes, we started small. I was just coming out of studies. I studied environmental sciences in the Netherlands, in Wageningen, a very nice place. I invite you to visit it. No, just kidding. But it's a very good university. And yes, I was looking for a job because, I did studies. I didn't know what to study. And then, because my grandfather was a chemist, my dad was a chemist, I thought I could be a chemist too. But it didn't work out for me. I couldn't understand the atoms at the different places at the same time. And so I did political sciences, and there I discovered environmental science. That was, for me, there was also the Al Gore documentary. I'm a fan of MacGyver, you know. And I thought I'm on a mission for the environment already then. So I went, after political sciences in Geneva, I went to Wageningen, environmental sciences. I came back in Switzerland. The problem is when you study political sciences and then environmental sciences, it's not like you study law, you're a lawyer, or you study finance, you're a banker, right? You come back, you're nothing, right? And so, there is impact investing, and I wanted to work abroad. That was my goal. I wanted to live abroad. And I was told by a banker, look, there is this guy, Cedric, he lived in Mexico, he could give you some tips. So I met with Cedric Lombard, my business partner, and then it really was a coup de foudre, right? Or I don't know, we
love at first sight.
Yeah, exactly. And we spent hours in that cafe, and then I was hired as a impact reporting, special assistant for impact reporting. That was my first job. And so I started, you talked about impact measurement, right? And then we started the fund, and the idea was to invest in companies in Latin America. And I went to my family, generously, we have, as you mentioned, a family business, 40 shareholders. I told the governance of the family, hey, I have this project, come to the General Assembly and present it. So I could present our project, and I was supported by family members. They invested in my fund. We started with 3 million, and then with the years, we invested, we lost money, we reinvested, we got repaid, we reinvested. We lost money also again, but we disbursed 300 million and we, to more than 100 companies, and today we have 30 outstanding. And along the way, other families joined, as you said. We started 3 million and then reached 15, and then we had our dear friends of the diamond partner, Lombardier, who came with their fund of fund and are still there. And I am grateful for that. They support us and they help us to reach the scale, 25 million, now 50, 70 million. And yeah, it's always learning, always finding out new things. And I want to react on what you said, Maria, on a project, because I don't want to go into the slides of the investment strategy and all this. Maybe just one thought about what you said, and I found it in my companies we finance. There's this family business we started financing this year. It's called Casa Franceschi, and they have a plantation, a cocoa plantation in Venezuela. They had it for more than 150 years. And you know, Venezuela is complicated. Like a lot of countries are now complicated in Latin America. The same, yeah. So for different kind of complication, but political complication. And what the family did is they had their estate, their plantation, and they invested, as you did, in societies. They made philanthropy, they made schools, they made hospitals. And then when the state in Venezuela wanted to take control of the business, as they did for many businesses, the communities, they say, no, don't touch Casa Franceschi, because they're with us. And so it protected them from the state, and it kept them going. And now they expanded to Costa Rica, to Ecuador, and they have a multinational business selling chocolate to the US. So it's an example. And another one in Colombia. This one is I like it because it's a controversial one. It's palm oil. And when we say palm oil, everyone, and so, but it's palm oil with zero deforestation. And that's an amazing thing in Colombia, in the God-forsaken place called Mapiripan. You can check it out in our last impact report. It's on our website. Not impact, quarterly report. In Mapiripan, there was a massacre. It's a place in the middle of nowhere near the Amazon. where there was a massacre, terrible massacre between the army and paramilitaries, and it was forgotten from the state, from everyone. And then this entrepreneur, an Italian entrepreneur, a family also, well, alone, like first gen, not the next gen, right? He had a very good business in renewables, and he got an offer from a very good offer for his business. And said, wow, but what will I do if I sell my business, right? I'll be unemployed. And so he started thinking of a project, and he looked at Colombia and Brazil, and he wanted to do a palm oil project because he was in energy, renewable energy. He knew that palm oil was a very good yield for the hectare, and that the world needs vegetable oil. And so he bought that land in Colombia and went and invested in a school, invested in a power plant. And so he thought that to be in that place where there was coca trade, there was coca growing, illegal, all kind of illegal activities, he had to be with the communities. So they started that, and now, 12 years after, they have 6,000 hectares. They didn't cut a single tree. They protect the rivers and the forest around. They employ 600 people. And the community, there was 400 people with no electricity, no road, no security. Now they have a school. The students, they can have even fellowships. No, how do you say?
Fellowships, yeah.
Yeah, to go to university.
Scholarships.
Scholarship, but they have to come back to work for the company 3 years. That's the contract they have. And really now the community is 4,000 people with electricity all day around and prosperity, and they protect the forest. They even employ indigenous communities. So, and then we arrived there with Impact Finance. They needed debt, so we're here, and we already lent them 7 million. And that's a real example of how you invest in the community for your business to prosper. And it's also an example because we hear a lot about environment. In Europe, we are very focused on the environment, the climate change, my God, right? But the problem, global south, you said it, our challenges are inequalities, are people trying to survive, to make a living, and they have no other way sometimes to destroy just their ecosystems they live in. So this is really why you have to work with communities to safeguard the ecosystems, and also if ecosystems are going well, then communities go well, and it's all related. So that was just, yeah, the palm oil example, and I can tell about many more.
Many more controversial examples.
Like gold. Yeah, but I won't.
Gold,
start.
yes.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, there's a lot of, there is impact investing here, yeah. But when we look at the 4 drivers of change, we can hear you and feel you as an advocate. Yes. You've brought other family members in your fund, other families. How do you see now moving forward? We've crossed the boundaries, the planet boundaries. For some it's too late. Well, yes. We're obsessed with legacy. We want to work on that. What's your next step in terms of accelerating the change and making it a systemic change from your own perspective?
It's a vast programme, as we say in French.
At your level.
Well, that's also my mission. I told you about I'm on a mission. It's also being there at conferences, sharing my story. I think if it can help other families, other investors, that's advocacy for me. That's spreading the word. Of course, doing things together. That's my problem sometimes with families. As you said, we're very discreet, under the radar. We don't say anything. Even to our wife, we cannot talk about the family business, right? But we all do. And no, but I'm saying I've seen a lot of families doing things on their own because it's philanthropy or because it's, and I applaud the collaboration, or its impact. It's very emotional and it's very, okay, it keeps people together, but also you think you have the right solution to the world problems, right? And every family think they have the right solution to the world's problem. And so that's sometimes when I go to other families, they already have their impact fund, and so that's a challenge for me, having families collaborate. That's why I thought your initiative is looking good, because we have no time. We have to do it now, and everyone is an actor in this.
Thank you very much. Now, two things before we move to the Q&A, and please start thinking about some questions. I mean, one thing we hear from those three examples is the local anchorage. And some of them are very global businesses. But I think what's, one of the things that I mentioned about business families is, yes, the obsession of legacy, but it's also local anchorage. And business families are not more perfect than others, but all the studies demonstrate that local anchorage, that set of values, leads to, when there's a crisis, business families are more loyal to staff, and they keep staff, as Farhad was explaining. Even if you don't get more revenues, you keep your staff. For two reasons: because you have that local anchorage, that loyalty, that local responsibility. And also because you know that when you need to restart, if you have gotten rid of, 20% of your your workforce, it's going to be much harder to restart. So I think that's one dimension. The other dimension is really about, you mentioned it, we stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean, some of them are here on stage, some of them are in the room. How do we bring those shoulders together and really work to convene families? And sometimes to say, maybe your project, your impact finance fund is as good as ours, or even better. I think one way to do it is better, in your case. I'll show you QR code. So for those who want to know more about impact finance, you can go there, and there are some great stories about gold and palm oil and investments. But how do we do that? How do we really work harder to compromise, to build bridges? We're going to be living in a more polarized world. I think we can all feel about that. Not only in India, not only in Colombia, we all learned about what happened yesterday in Washington. It's going to be more polarized. How do we as business family build those bridges? We've learned to build bridges between family members, between family and business. Now, how do we come together to build those bridges across generations and with society and communities? Let's open, and please, André and Alfonso, if if anything comes up, please join the conversation. But yes, there are some questions here in the room. Let's take the first one. Introduce yourself, and then please ask the question.
Okay. Matthias Simon from the St. Gallen Symposium. A question probably to you, but all of you. You've brought together with the Family Business Network all of these families to do good. How exactly did you do that? Because that, for me at least, would be insightful on how to bring together very diverse groups of people. If you could elaborate on that, exactly to that anchor.
And I'll let Farhad, who's the chair of our community, answer also. But I think it all started about after the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. I mean, the network was, at the heart of the network, some people say we are the Alcoholic Anonymous of family business. Okay, we come together just to learn on how to reconcile family, which is emotion, conflict, with business, which is entrepreneurship and growth and employment. Now, we've done that for decades. We were not talking about family business as a force for good. We were talking about, purpose, mission, governance, succession. And then comes the crisis, 2009, looking at the financial world and saying, oh my God, where are we going? And then a lot of members woke up in the network saying, we can't continue to be on our own like a private network. We need to say something, to do something. Then we issued that pledge, Pledge for a Sustainable Future. And then we realized quite quickly that it was great to pledge. And we've all pledged to zillions of things. And we know how hard it is, like on January 1st, to say, I've pledged to do this and that during the year. But we realized that we needed to move from a pledge to action, to collective action. Now, it's hard. It's going to take another 10 years. And as we heard, we might not have those 10 years. So how do we accelerate? And that's why we're here today, increasingly open and transparent to say, let's really work harder together to move from learning and pledging to action. So it was community-based, it was mission-based. Fahad, you might want to say a few words about that journey of sustainability at FBN.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's, as Alexi mentioned earlier, is, you know, we in family businesses are all doing our own thing all over in a very fragmented way. But I think the whole, after the partnership with UNCTAD, and in terms of making clear the goals that, you know, we had to actually work on measuring, then tracking, and then actually reviewing so that you could see that there was progress happening, and trying to do this in a much more organized way. So by doing it in a more organized way, then you start making impact. Because we as family businesses, I mean, you know, we have large numbers. We have many, many family businesses across the world. In the network itself, we are today, what, I think 20,000 family businesses across the world in 65 countries. That's a significant number. And we are about 32 chapters that we have of FBN. So if we add all that up, it's quite a significant quantum. And if we can do it in an organized way, then the impact we can have, whether it's in the business itself, whether it's the philanthropy which we are providing, which also has a business impact, a business purpose, and then in the investment part, you know, it can be much more significant if it's tracked in this way.
And it's taking the risk to be more transparent, to be more open. It's risky, but the risk of staying private is higher than the risk of becoming more transparent. Now, we know media love crazy cousins in family businesses. And actually, at FBN, we talk a lot about the crazy cousins, because we all have crazy cousins. Sometimes it's ourselves, and we don't know about it, or we don't want to acknowledge it. But it's about, you know, taking that risk of becoming more public, more transparent, more open. Now, it's not going to be an easy journey, but it's a journey we don't have the choice to embark on.
Can I perhaps try something else? Yes, the true issue is that, as we just said, you know, if you run your business for yourself and if you run business on your own, you realize that there are shortcomings into what you're doing. So this realization that you need to syndicate all this, that you need to get together, is very much linked to the absolute transformation from not managing a business for shareholders, but managing it for stakeholders. Your business is there to serve society. That's what gives it a license to operate, and that's what allows you to continue in the long term for the benefit of society. The origin of the word company, eating bread with people. You know, this is what it's all about. This is how families started in 250 years ago to get companies who together worked for the employees, for the livelihoods, for the societies in which operated and which gave back to society. Now, this has changed in the last 150 years. We've been focusing much more on short-term profit maximization. I don't have to enter into the 1976 Nobel Prize winner, Milton Friedman, the business of business is business. But one of the things we can do if we bring things together is that we can come back to our original purpose, which is to serve society. And I think that's a very important realization, which is certainly one of the reasons why I'm attracted to become a member of FBN and why our association and intent will allow us to sort of talk about things. We are not managing this business just to make money. We're managing them because they make a contribution to society. And I think that's an important principle.
And as a famous brand here in Geneva says, we don't own the business, we take care of it for the next generation.
If I may, just, Alex, just... no, I just wanted to say, to answer your question, how you bring families together. I think there are initiatives, and then you have to find the right one for your family, right? And so today, the guilty for bringing me here on the panel is Risto and Adela from TIO, and this is a local network of family offices wanting to do impact together. So I think, so find the right circle, find the right organization, because there are many, right? FBN, Intent, Impact Finance. But at the end, it's just be there and listen to what the other do, and don't just think that you have the solution or you know the problem better than anyone. And so it's about listening to what others do, and be open to do something with them that they do best, and you bring them on to something you do best.
Can I comment?
Yes. Why don't you comment, and then there's a question from a lead. Okay,
yeah,
we have 3 questions.
Just a quick reflection on that. I was thinking, sure, and I think it's great if we can all get together. But before I can get my family to commit to coming together, I need to unite my family. And one thing that we do today is that we call each other out if we don't live our values. Because, you know, it's easy to say we have these values, but if you don't live them, they're worthless. They're like words on paper, on agreements that never happen.
When you say you call out, you just give a call?
No, but if we are sitting here and somebody, we have ambition and responsibility, for example, and then one is saying that, you know, no, let's just go where it's lowest. Then we call each other, but that's not according to our values. Shouldn't we strive for better? You know, so we call in that sense, try to call. We don't always do it, but it's one way to remind ourselves who we are, what we want to be, what is the best version of ourselves, and then when we are all united, we can join you guys. But you need to unite your own family to go.
Thank you. Yes, one question there. The lady in the back, and then you in front, yeah. You can use the microphone.
Hi, hello, thanks. Hi, good evening. My name is Cristina. I am ex-gen from a family business in Latin America. And now I'm working in philanthropy here in a health NGO. And I wanted to hear your perspective on the momentum and the number of companies and families that are joining these initiatives. I know, Alexis, you guys have run a survey within Switzerland of how many European families are actually carrying on activities on sustainability out of proper belief as change makers in their society, instead of just kind of checking their sustainability compliance. And I would like to hear as well, how do you see that in Latin America? I come from Colombia as well, and I know that it is a very, very small number of families and companies that are taking this at this level. When I was growing up, I was actually, in a way, not proud to have a family business where to work. I had to kind of go and work for the big businesses and then figure it out. So I wanted to hear how your perspective, what's your perspective in terms of how the mindset is in Europe and how it compares to Africa, Asia, and Latin America nowadays in terms of mentality of business owners and families?
I think it's moving everywhere. I think, well, in Colombia, we have a chapter of about 250 families, and I can tell you this is on top of their agenda. I think why is it moving everywhere? Because the climate crisis is touching everybody, because the social crisis is also touching everybody, including increasingly in Europe. Switzerland might be an exception, but we need to work hard to continue to keep it, developing. And so I think it is moving everywhere, and it is moving also because we have some next gens who are moving into decision-making positions, and they don't take no for an answer. They don't want the schizophrenia of the profitable business, of the Milton Friedman model with the Family Philanthropy Foundation on the side. So do we have enough data? No. Do we need to do more research? Yes. This is a goal, and we have many people online today, for business families to open up to researchers, to universities, INSEAD, IMD, Oxford. We did a study with Oxford, I think in 2018. The results were mixed. We had about 500 families participating in the survey, and we could feel that we had some catch-up to do. Why? Because we think we're doing the right thing, and we probably are doing the right thing, but we don't measure enough. And so this is really a call for families to take that high road and to invest in tracking their progress, I mean measuring, tracking their progress and reporting transparently. It's going to take some time, but it's happening. And I think 10 years ago, there used to be a few crazy misfits like Alfonso, André, Farhad, Maria,
crazy a bit, yeah.
and Benjamin. No, we can feel in the network that there's a growing group, which hopefully we're reaching the tipping point there.
Alexis, I wanted to make some comments because today I heard things that are very interesting. The first thing, Maria, is about the project with UNICEF. I think I've been trustee of the foundation, our Brown Foundation, Global Foundation, for 30 years nearly, and all over the world. No, as you can imagine, we visit millions of customers every week, and every week we know plenty of stories. We are in war countries, in normal countries, America, Africa, everywhere. No? Finally, after many, many years, we decided to concentrate all our efforts in one project because we thought that if not, we were losing strength. So we left like 15 to 20% for local projects, distress, like now in Morocco, St. Water, Somalia, things like that. That happens usually when we're working, Bangladesh, Niger, Sudan. We're always there, giving water, helping the people and so on, and also with things like, for example, AIDS, Zika, Ebola, whatever happens in the world, we are always trying to help. But 80 or 90% goes to one project, and this one project is replenishing water. The main worry that we have is the lack of water in the world. And this is something that we're investing highly. You are doing with UNICEF, I think it's fantastic. You have one project, we are focusing this project, I think it's very good. We're trying to focus on water. What we try is to replenish 150% of what we use, but also we try to work with the communities in order to replenish the water they use. And this is something that, for example, in Australia, 40% of the water is lost in agriculture because it's not well transported everywhere. So we have things like that we have to do. I think we are very much also in one project, that is water. UNICEF, we are under water. The other thing, I was very impressed by the protection of workers. We are new on that because, no, it's not true because we've been in Africa for 40 years, no, nearly, but in Asia, and we've known new situations, no? Underprotect, overprotect, protect, you know, what is the right moment, no, to the right level of protection, no? He should go to school and not get a salary. She could go to school and get a salary. What is the age? How he will be protected? How is the sanitation? All this. So we're working with foundations for that. But I mean, it's not so easy to find for us the right level of protection that is very important and has to work. No. On the other hand, I would like to talk about building bridges. No. The first bridge you have to go through is your family. Because the most difficult thing is not to talk, it's to listen. And in most of the meetings in a family, nobody listens. So in some companies, we have people that have engaged people to learn about listening. So when it starts the board meeting, it comes and says, listen please. Your quality of listening is no good. Look at the guy, what is he saying? This means empathy, this means listening. So it's the first bridge to go on. To have the same strategy, to agree on sustainability, and then talk with your consumers and really know what they want. Because we've been 15 years wrong. We thought that the priority of the consumer was one, and it was another one. It was climate change. It was not the other one. So I mean, this is some things that is very important. And also with Scope 3, with your suppliers, and also with the employees. Your employees, the people that work with you, is the voice of the company. Is the people who knows more if you are doing things right or wrong. And this I wanted to say because this is my experience I want to tell. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for such inspiring stories that really made us, it made me personally have goosebumps. I wanted to maybe
Sorry,
challenge...
can you introduce yourself, please?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
My name is Vera Lalchevska. I'm president and founder of the Geneva Coalition to Abolish Child Sexual Abuse. So my question is precisely, 2 weeks ago there was a report that was issued by Foreign Policy Analytics that stated that 1 billion children have been abused. So the statistics are horrible. On an average, there's 20% children in each country on average that have been abused. So we're talking about the elephant in the room, and it is a sustainability question, because if we do not have healthy children, we won't have a sustainable world. And I thank you, Ms. Maria, for highlighting that. But my question is perhaps, or challenge to all of you, of these people, these giants in the room, is what are the chances that we make abolishing child sexual abuse the climate change issue of tomorrow? Because it is very important. However, during these 3 days of the sustainability of building bridges, I have heard over and over that people challenging me and saying, what's your business case? Why should we do it? It's not profitable. So my challenge to you is, can you unite as leaders of families behind this, because it's about our children.
It's about our future. I mean, we will not have a stable society if we don't protect the children. You know, sorry that I jumped in, but I strongly believe that, you know, like I said earlier, that an investment in children will yield a stable society. And my reasoning goes that if you invest, for example, in child protection, then that child will grow up to be first a safe child, then a responsible adult, then he or she will be able to contribute to society so that businesses can prosper and families can thrive. So we cannot have that. We don't protect them. So I'm with you. But nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, I think silence...
And nobody wants to be associated with it.
Yeah, and I think it's a question about silence versus voice. It's about hidden versus transparency. And I think the journey we're embarking as a community of business families, moving from being hidden, and whether happy or unhappy, that's not a question, but to being more transparent and to talk about things and to put them, including the difficult conversations.
To put it on the priority agenda.
Yes.
But just hearing you talking about the business case and not profitable, I mean, that's the crux of the matter. As long as we just measure every opportunity on financial flows, we are not getting there. Every decision we take, be it in business, be it in society, should be balanced on the three capitals: the social, the human, and the natural capital. And it's only if you understand the interdependency between these three that you can create long-term value. Before I said that businesses should not be run by shareholders, I don't mean, sorry, not run for shareholders, I don't mean they should be loss-making. They should be a force for good by becoming profitable and by investing in a reasonable way. Today, taking a business decision without taking into account the social consequences of what you are doing, in particular for healthy families and children and, you know, all such like things, is quite simply not professional. You're creating short-term destruction and not short-term value. So for me, the answer to this is not to say, let's take an issue and pick it up. If we really want to get to the sustainable, inclusive prosperity, we have to fight against inequalities, and we have to make sure that we take into account the social system. So, you know, why are we here all together? The human element, each one of us individually, and nature. And nature not just because it's beautiful, which it is, but nature because it is the life system support on Earth. If we don't have the nature as a system to support what we're doing, we get nowhere.
Thank you. It's going to be a very frustrating moment because we have 1 minute and 30 seconds. So, but there's a great moment afterwards, which is cocktails and drinks and plenty of opportunities to speak and exchange and learn and move from learning to action. So I'm going to have to conclude. And one of the things we're really trying to do here is to reconcile two sets of values, which for years we've thought were, you know, contradictory. Some people would say it's socialism and capitalism. No, it's about business values and family values. And with actually, when you take the best of the two, you're really trying to create this sort of virtuous, and I'm using the word virtuous, business model, ideally family business model, but it can be any sort of ownership model where you bring entrepreneurship and emotion to build social responsibility, money and love to bring profit with purpose, capitalism and mutuality to bring conscious capitalism. So that's what we're trying to do every day at FBN. That's where we're trying to bring more families, more owners to work on those sets of values, and they're equally important. And we are inviting, encouraging families and family business to invest as much in their business strategy, their ownership strategy, as they invest in their family. And we think in generation, not in quarters, and you know, as the famous African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We need to go both fast and far. We need to accelerate, but let's go together. Thank you very much to the panel today.
Just add something. So not only thank you very much to the panel, but thank you also to the audience. And I just wanted to say that Intent is inviting you, in association with FBN, to a cocktail just in the middle of the flat. One of the deliciousness we're about to serve to you is my own wine, and I would be very grateful if you could try and there is an address on the label. Yeah, okay.